Hello. It is Monday afternoon. Sorry if you can hear stuff. Not exactly the best conditions, but I just had to sit down and film really quick because after I finished filming last week's wrap up, I felt like I needed something comforting to stave off my reading slump, and so I picked up This Is How You Lose the Time More, and I just finished it, and I love this book. If you don't know about it, essentially this is written by Max Gladstone and Amal El-Mohtar, and it is about these two agents who are on opposite sides of a time war. Essentially, they're two worlds. Red is part of like a technocratic, dystopian-ish side, and blue is part of like an all-seeing organic matter kind of thing. And they each go back and forth in time, messing with different events in different alternate realities to try to push things to go one way or another to help their own side win the time war. What the time war is, we don't know. Doesn't matter. What matters is that one day Blue writes a letter to Red and leaves it for Red to see, and thus starts a connection between the two of them that eventually moves into very deep, deep love. And I love this book. I loved it the first time I read it. So happy that I reread it, loved it just as much, maybe even more. And I think I had just enough time between reading that I kind of forgot a lot of the smaller details. I remember big picture stuff. I remember how I felt. I remembered a lot of like how they fell together, how they fell in love, but I forgot the details of it. And that is where the joy of this is, seriously. The writing is beautiful. I thought I would annotate a lot more, but really I just highlighted passages, lines that I thought were stunning and I wanted to remember when I read this again in the future. So not a terrible amount, but enough that, you know, just, yeah. So, it's beautiful. I love these two. I love this story. I think this should be read more. I understand why it may turn people off. The writing is not exactly the most, let's say, inviting. I think as a sci-fi fantasy reader, as someone who's been reading sci-fi fantasy since I was a young child, this was easy for me to simply step into, pick up the threads of the story and where each of their worlds were going and how they came to be these people, essentially. And I can see how the lack of a plot, the lack of a very specific touchstone other than these two characters connecting can turn people off, and why people may not like the story as much and may not connect with the story as much. But for me, I connected. I love it. How many times can I say that? I freaking love it. One of my absolute all-time favorite books. And I'm so glad I read it. It reminds me of why I like reading. It reminds me of why I love finding new characters to connect with and to reconnect with. So super glad that I picked this up. I'm feeling good about my reading, and hopefully this really does kick me out of my slump, and we'll see what I lean towards next. I'm actually thinking about picking up something else to reread, but we'll see if that happens or if I even talk about it. So have you read This Is How You Lose the Time More? Let me know. I'm always up for hearing anyone else gush about this, and I love it. It's favorite. Everyone should read it, or at the very minimum give it a try. So yeah, happy Monday. What a good week. What a good week to start off. Yeah, I bleached my hair. It's not finished. I'm going to put some purple in it tonight for a lavender look, but sorry to mention anything. Surprise. Wrap up time. I guess get this out of the way. Yeah, here's the color. It was way more purple lavender when I put the color in on Tuesday night, but apparently this version of the typical color company I use Ion. Typically I use their semi-permanent brights, but this time I used the permanent one, and the purple washed out in like one shampoo. I'm kind of digging this like icy silver situation though, so I'm just gonna leave it. It was cool. So what have I read this week? First of all, what I finished This Is How You Lose the Time War, which I have talked about already in a previous clip. Then next, I guess I'll talk about what I have DNF'd. I actually ended up going back to The Name of All Things by Jenn Lyons. I paused on it a couple weeks ago, a month ago. And I got about another 100 pages in. I'm 370-ish pages in now, a little over halfway through, and my reading at no point ever became an enjoyable experience. I wasn't having fun. In fact, so much of the world building and a lot of the stuff being, a lot of the themes, a lot of the way that Jenn Lyons is writing about certain things was just getting kind of annoying. It's very ham-fisted. I don't like Janelle as a character, so having this entire book be all about her from two perspectives, from her perspective and also Brother Cowan's perspective, is just a lot. I wanted more of the story from when we ended the first book. This just feels like such a huge side note in the story, and I'm not vibing with it. It is very ham-fisted in the way that it is discussing gender identity themes. And if I mostly DNF'd because if I had to read another description of how people are stallions or mares, or see someone call someone a colt or a foal or anything like that, I was gonna lose it. The allegory was just getting to be too heavy-handed, and it was just starting to annoy me more than anything, and that was really impacting how I felt about this. So, and then at this point that I've gotten to in the book, the characters move to a different country, and the discussion of gender identity just gets even more ham-fisted. Like, it's just bashing you over the head with it, and I'm just like, I'm nearly 400 pages in. Like, I don't need even more obvious gender identity, feminism, stuff like that. So it was a lot. It was very annoying, and like I said, at no point did this become a joy to read, so I'm DNFing. Considering that I own book 3, I might just look up spoilers for what happens in the rest of this book, and then try book 3, and if that continues on with the greater story that I wanted to go back to, then I will probably read book 3, because like, I really enjoyed book 1. It was confusing as fuck, but it was just so fun, and a lot of the fun that was in book 1, especially the different types of storytelling that Jenn Lyons was playing with, that's not fun in this for me. It just isn't as fun in this for me. So DNF, and I will pick up book 3 at some point, I guess. So unfortunately, I'm not loving this as much as many other people do. I wish I loved it more. I wish I could say that I loved it more, but what can you do? Let's see, on to what else I finished. I actually read a new manga series called The Yakuza's Bias. I read volumes 1 and 2 digitally through my library, and essentially this is a story about a hard-ass Yakuza who is the second in line to this Yakuza family, and he is sucked into the world of becoming a K-pop stan and having a bias. If you don't know K-pop, a bias, essentially your favorite member. And this was so much fun. It was a lot more fun. Like, I expected a lot of what was happening, but it was a lot more fun and a lot more wholesome than I had anticipated. Like, I knew that it was probably going to poke fun at a lot of like really super intense, crazy K-pop fandom things, but I could tell that a lot of the fun being poked at K-pop fandom was coming from a place of like heart. Like, I could tell this mangaka is a K-pop fan. Like, they understand fandom to a point where they can make fun of it because they understand it on a deeper level and know exactly what being a fan and doing all these fan things entail. Like just buying overpriced merch, trading photo cards, going to your first concert and seeing them in person, becoming like vaguely Twitter viral in your fandom, going to a fan sign with a handshake and a fan meet. Like all these little super intense, very K-pop specific things were touched on. In volume 2, the Yakuza holds a big birthday party when it's his bias's birthday. Like he holds the birthday for his bias. It's silly, but it's just kind of wholesome in a way. And I didn't ever feel like, as a part of a K-pop fandom as a whole, I never felt like I was being laughed at. I felt like I was laughing with the story, which is a really hard line to walk, but I think this was done so well. It was a lot of fun. If you're a K-pop fan, I highly recommend it. It's so much fun. A lot of it is intense. Like if you're not super into K-pop fandom, a lot of it may seem really crazy, but I promise this is how K-pop fandom can be, especially the really super intense ones. I've been into K-pop for 9 years at this point, but I have never gotten that intense because I had all that when I was 15 years old with NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and all of that. So I have my favorites. I enjoy it. I enjoy K-pop as a whole. I love the music, but I have never been that deep into fandom, except maybe photo card collecting, but that's it. But yeah, this was so much fun. I'm kind of sad that there's only 2 volumes so far because I want so much more. But this is definitely a series I'm going to keep an eye on and continue reading as it comes out. What else? I finally dug into comics that I own, and I finally read Fantastic Four Volume 1 by Dan Slott. This is Forever. This was, I believe it's the 2018 series relaunch of Fantastic Four. So like it's technically a #1, technically a Volume 1 relaunch. And I kind of fell out of reading actual Marvel comics in the last 5 to 6 years. Oh, okay, longer. So I'm not super up to date on exactly what has been happening in Marvel comics. So I didn't have really a good idea of why at the start of this, Reed and Sue and all of the Fantastic Four kids, the family, they are all like considered lost in space and thought dead, which it's the Fantastic Four, they're not dead. But Johnny, this volume opens with Johnny and Ben, who are left on Earth together, dealing with the fading hope that Reed and Sue are going to come back. And I think that lasts for like the first issue, and very quickly, you know, obviously they're alive. Reed and Sue and the rest of the Future Academy, all the kids, they have been traveling through space and time and having adventures and learning science, and like that's the Fantastic Four I love. I really like that Dan Slott has walked back from all of the big universe changing shit that Jonathan Hickman introduced and has brought them back to being a family that adventures and does science together. That is the Fantastic Four that I love. That is the Fantastic Four that I grew up with. I love Fantastic Four as a family. I love them as a science-y adventure family. I don't love this grim, dark, doom, every single thing is a universe world-ending shit. Like, that's not my Fantastic Four, period. And that's why I think even though it's incredibly cheesy and they're not great movies, the Fantastic Four movies with Ioan Gruffudd, Jessica Alba, Michael Chiklis, and Chris Evans, they're perfect Fantastic Four movies in terms of the tone and how they treat them as a family coming together, becoming superheroes. That is my Fantastic Four. So I really hope that the upcoming movie with Pedro Pascal is going in that direction. Like, I have hope, but my hopes have also been dashed a lot over the last few years. So it's very hard being a Fantastic Four fan, I can tell you that. But this was really great return to form. I really enjoyed it. The only sour note really was the last issue with the Fantastics with an X that they come back to. That I think that was just a really silly period end to this series, or to this volume. But happy with where this has gone off, happy with this kicked off. I'm going to continue. I do actually own volume 2 of Ben and Alicia's wedding, and the back promises that it's a real wedding, no fakes. It's actually happening finally, so I'm excited to read this. And then I don't have any more after that, but I do have Marvel Unlimited, so I'll probably continue on with the series. I'm actually very seriously considering doing a full entire Fantastic Four reread, because I have Marvel Unlimited starting all the way from #1, the very, very first #1. I'm thinking of doing a full reread, so, and, you know, in anticipation for the upcoming movie. So I don't know, that might be a project I go on. I do have an X-Men project, reading, unfortunately, all of the Jonathan Hickman era X-Men. And so that has kind of stalled because Jonathan Hickman and I have words for Jonathan Hickman, but, you know, we're not going to talk about that here. But yeah, so that was Fantastic Four Volume 1. Very happy with that. Happy to continue on. So that is what I've finished this week. What am I currently reading? So I am still reading Remnant Population by Elizabeth Moon. I remember this time it's Moon, M-O-O-N, that spells Elizabeth Moon. I was really enjoying it last week, but then the more I read, the less I am enjoying it, the less interest I have. It is losing me. I'm about 50, a little over 50% in, and it's just losing me. What was interesting and fun at first just kept dragging on, just started getting more and more boring. And even now, even as our main character has met the local population, it's still boring. I don't care. So, I might give it another 5-10%, but I think this is going to be a DNF. What else? I started reading on audio Chilling Effect by Valerie Valdes. And first off, this does, like it says in the summary, wacky hijinks, space adventures, found family, all kinds of stuff. But this is so obviously Mass Effect fan fiction, and I find that adorable. The first space station that they have a big dust up on is obviously Omega. There's an ancient alien race that has been long gone, thought dead, and they left behind like ancient artifacts, and there are space archaeologists whose whole jobs are to like look up these artifacts, and the only thing that they have left that works, the technology that works, are the gates that allow the people, galaxies, to jump from galaxy to galaxy. It's Mass Effect. It's also very Firefly. It's every space opera, found family, fun, zany hijinks you can think of. For me, where this is falling short is that it has this very weird pacing where we're going from place to place and job to job, and zany hijinks are happening there, but the story is dragging in terms of the main plot line. The main plot line, which is that our main character, the captain, Eva Innocente, she is forced into doing jobs for this shady criminal conglomerate, and these jobs that she's doing, they tend to be dangerous jobs, you know, weird hijinks happen on each one. But the main thing that is also like a huge stumbling block, other than like the pacing, is that she has to lie to the rest of her crew about why they're doing these jobs. She doesn't tell them the whole truth about why she's hired, and I won't mention that because I don't remember how in-depth the summary goes on that. And the whole, like, that's a trope that I am not a fan of. The whole, I can't tell my crew because it would endanger them all, and every time we do something, it's my fault that they get hurt, and it's my fault that we're doing this, and I'm so selfish, but because I love them and I want them to stay here, but it's my fault that they get hurt, and I can't tell them anything. I have to keep lying to them, blah 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 blah. And I hate that. I just hate that version of the self-sacrificing stoic main character, even though Eva is nowhere near stoic. I hate it. It drives me nuts. It's a very cheap way of creating tension between a close-knit group of characters. Like, do something better. It's a very annoying pebble in my shoe in what is a very much just a very enjoyable book so far. So I'm hoping it chills out a little bit. I'm about 35% in, although it feels like a very long book. Like, I'm 35% in, I still have like 9 hours left to read. Like, this pacing is bonkers. So we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna continue a little bit. I'm hoping that the whole lying shit chills out, or I don't know. The summary says something about how it blows up in her face, so I think I can see exactly where this trope is going, and that may be another DNF, but we'll keep going. Lastly, what I'm currently reading is, on a completely different note, the Tokyo Zodiac Murders by Soji Shimada. This is a classic Japanese locked room mystery, very dark, very insane. To start with, it opens up with this man's book story notes where he is discussing how he's going to murder his daughters and stepdaughters and nieces to take their body parts and put them together to create the perfect woman to help save Japan. He's going to use alchemy and astrology to make all these decisions. It's insane. Very compelling to read. Very insane. And then that happens in 1936. And then in 1979, we shift to this guy who is obsessed with mystery stories, and he's obsessed with this story. It was unsolved. And the reason it was unsolved is that the man who was planning the murders to create the perfect body, he dies. Like, he dies in a locked room, and that is the locked room mystery part of this. But he dies, and his notes are found with his body. But then 2 or 3 days later, the actual murders that he had planned go off and happen exactly how he planned them, even though he is dead. So that is the whole overarching locked room kind of mystery that is happening. And we're following these characters as they like basically tell us every single facet of the mystery, every single thing about every single clue, every single theory and all of that. So I'm very interested to see where this goes. I'm only about 60 pages in, but I'm very intrigued. This is, and I got through those 60 pages very quickly, so I'm very intrigued. I'm going to keep reading this tonight, see how far I get. Probably read it over this weekend, and hopefully it does keep the intrigue up, because it is like something like 300 pages, and I don't know how much of that, if it is like just giving you the whole story like that, but we do follow the character as he tries to solve the mystery. So I hope there's a good balance, and it's got to be, because this is like a classic Japanese murder mystery. So that is the Tokyo Zodiac Murders, which is a pretty interesting cover. It's like interesting but also very basic all at once. So yeah, I kind of feel a little weird about it, but yeah, that's that. So yeah, that is it for this week. Not too much. Like, I read a good bit, but you know, nothing, you know, blew my skirt up other than my reread of This Is How You Lose the Time War, which I'm still riding that high. I just love that book so fucking much. Let me know how your reading is going this week. Let me know what you think about anything that I am reading or have read this week. And I will catch you guys later. Bye.